It seems like they just pull some random guess. It's like, that was amazing. How did you do that? And it's like, was it luck or was that, skill? And sometimes, they'll say it's a little bit of both. Sometimes they'll, we'll never know. But, just at that moment, it was like, wow, I mean, maybe it was divine intervention, whatever, but it was kind of nice to know that I knew what I was doing and somehow, a gamble, like a pretty heavy gamble at that, paid off. So yeah, I was just like, man, the adrenaline was just going big. I was like, everything I set out for, I pulled it off.
Right.
Um, and then yeah, so he opens up the envelope, and I was just like, he's saying, okay, what do we get here? And I'm just like crossing my fingers, like, man, I hope it's the car. I'm like, just okay, I just want the car because that's bragging rights, for 20-year-old in college, So, and sure enough, it was the T-top Camaro convertible, and I was just like, and so like I'm popping around stage like mad, and I would dare say this is probably one of the most heavily edited segments in wheel history because, after I started hopping around, I'm like kind of doing like almost like a victory lap around the stage, like I'm going up to the, front audience, like, like I'm trying to start a wave here or something.
Yeah.
And you know how like on College Week, especially for wheel, like they have the wheel at the bottom. It's like a design with like all the pendants, together. So yeah,
Wait.
it's like I remember just
Oh
running.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, all the
I gotta look at a picture of it. They didn't. I don't think that they didn't do that on mine.
okay. But yeah, so like I ran to the picture of like the whole collage of the circle of pennants. And so I run over to San Jose State. I remember just like getting on my hands and knees and I was kissing it like it was the Indy 500
Oh my
bricks.
gosh.
Like I'm looking at the camera, I'm like, San Jose State, baby, that's what's up. Like I was just acting a straight up fool for, I was like, yeah, it sort of just goes to my theory when like women when they win like Miss America and all that, like they cry, they're happy and all stuff. If a guy were to win like Mr. America, he'd be like, yeah, that's what's up, give it to me. So it was just like all sorts of braggadocio going into it. And I was just like beyond feeling myself at that moment. So like pretty much all you see on TV is like me dropping to my knees, like, oh, thank goodness I won. And then me just sort of like hyping up the crowd, like, yeah, give me some more applause.
Did your sister come with you?
So yeah, this is the
Okay.
thing. My sister was able to she came with her boyfriend to the show, so she actually showed up. And like she didn't even tell me, but I mean, of course, we didn't have phones at the time, so like yeah, she was able to get the tickets from my mom, and she came up. So she comes to the stage because her boyfriend would have joined me on stage, but he had to go to the bathroom at that time. So he missed like being on TV and celebrating because yeah.
Yeah, and
That's funny.
I think now Pat did something to you. I don't think he did to anybody else. He picked you up.
So what happened was when my sister ran on stage, I'm just like, oh, so I pick her up and I spin her around, just pure joy and all that stuff. And Pat says, hey, who's this girl you're spinning around here? I'm like, hey, this is my sister Carolyn. And he goes, hey, why'd you, bring it in? So, he gives me a hug and just like instinctively the legs go up around his waist and
Oh
then
my
he's
gosh.
me around. Like, I don't know anything about politeness and, all stuff. Like I'm running this like natural high, like, I'll kiss anybody, at this point. And so yeah, he spun me around and yeah, that's everyone says, they spun the wheel on Wheel of Fortune, but how many times has Pat spun you? And
Now I guess he was 12, I guess, when we were on. So he had
That's
time.
awesome. So,
and
what was your
I
total
never got a
winnings?
restraining order after. So.
What was your total winnings, Mel, including the car?
So total winnings after that was after that, that was the Tuesday game. So this was back in the day when top three winners would get to go on the
Friday
Friday,
show.
championship show. So I was on there. Your boy didn't do very good at that time. The only one I ended up getting was the final spin. I got 3K out of that. But yeah, the guys who I was going against, Thayer, yeah, it was just like it was the last person you wanted right after you because he was that good a player. It's like if you make one mistake, he can capitalize on it. So he was very good. Haven't heard from him since, and I stopped poking needles in that voodoo doll a long time ago. Just kidding. you're hearing this there, love you. And the other girl, Danielle, who, fun fact about Danielle Bowman, I believe her name is, she ended up as a sort of like, I don't know the exact title, but basically like a big person in the Oakland Police Department,
Oh,
and
wow.
she ended up transferring to Portland. And last I checked, Philadelphia. So I mean, as a, pretty big city official, to have this sort of thing on the resume is pretty cool. She'd probably be a very fascinating candidate for this pod.
So you got a little
Oh.
over $3,000 in a car.
Yeah, so overall I had 48,487 in cash. Oh no, that's not cash, rather. The Camaro into cash, like that value total was 48,487. Cash was about like 27,450.
Oh wow, that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how
401k.
long did you keep the car for?
I had it for about 13 years.
Oh wow.
13 years, 225,000 miles on it. Yeah, it took me all sorts
Got
of
the
places.
most of it.
First thing I did when I got that car out of San Francisco was well, after getting home the next day, I drove up to Vancouver, which is like about a 14-15 hour drive, give or take.
Yeah.
I stopped up in Portland. It's like one of the most beautiful drives if you're a California native, or like anywhere on the West Coast. Yeah, just going up California 101, up Oregon, up Washington. It's one of the most gorgeous drives you'll see.
Wow.
And then went up to Canada. It's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up donating the car to a kids charity.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
That's
yeah.
good.
And
So
then
would you
hmm.
how would you say that the Wheel of Fortune changed your life after, if it did?
Well, it depends at what time. Like the immediate, I would say a lot of stuff, but there was definitely some very interesting shifts that happened after the whole team, all that. Like all of a sudden, the gals that used to dog me, they suddenly they were trying to earn. Um, as a little cautionary tale. Uh, Obviously, when you get your checks mailed and all that,
Mm-hmm.
um, I did get my check mailed, and I actually got it held hostage by a parent, by my mom, because she was like, "Hey, I'll give you a check, but you got to give me this cut." And I was like, I'm like, of course I was going to give you a cut, but like, there's the whole thing of like parent guilt, like I born you, I raised you, and all this stuff, and it got kind of a little contentious, but we settled in. It was kind of like a uh, a factor in helping you succeed. But just so I was kind of a little jaded after that sort of thing. But that's probably why I moved out of the house not too long afterwards. But hey, with like 20 plus K in the bank, it's like, yeah, I could get my own apartment and
Yeah.
peace. So that was kind of odd. I mean, I'm sure more people happened about that, and maybe not the most fun story, but hey, mom got hers and she was fun. I ended up giving the Zodiac watch to my sister, and she was very thankful about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably worth a 1,000 or something nowadays, but it's kind of nice to like go into like the biggest mall, like the most fancy mall, and be like, yeah, the price tag ain't nothing. It felt pretty empowering. Can't say that sucked. Um, After that, I guess it sort of made me feel like, hey, I can do anything. Being in the spotlight, I just knew like I was meant for it.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much in, yeah, I'm going to be a movie star, but like, if you put me in a high pressure situation with competition,
Can do
I
it.
know you can't.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Past that, let's see. I guess after that too, sort of like I guess how I look at other contestants nowadays when I like watch a game, because we all watch and we
Mhm.
all chime in, and we look at it's like, oh God, how don't you know this? What are you, dumb or something like that? It's like that's how I used to feel when I used to
Yeah.
watch game shows.
Oh yeah, I can't do I
We
can't
don't
do
do
that
that
anymore.
anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest changes about me is like, okay, I understand. When you got on this game show, you got on this game show for a reason.
Mhm.
I mean, you turned the pants off this, you have to be smart enough at least to get on there. And you know what? I'm not in the business of hating, for hating's sake because I can beat you. Because if that were the case, I would not root for anybody for the most part,
Yeah.
and that's just me, like the competitive, jerk in me that always thinks like, yeah, I'm not going to lose. Why would I think that? No, but like I look at everyone, I'm like, I'm rooting for you. Like, yeah, I want you to win the biggest prize. I want you to, I mean, it's no sweat off my back. I
Mhm.
mean, I want people to be as happy as I did. If everyone could feel that once, if you're lucky twice or three times, whatever, like, yeah, I mean, you can both attest to this. It is life changing. Like when I talk about, what are, three most, biggest points in my life, like, yeah, Wheels easily top three, if not top two, if not top one,
Oh
but
yeah.
okay, no, top two, because, birth of my daughter is going to be number one, and I'll get crucified for not saying that, but it's
Mhm.
true. That's greatest thing. So yeah, just having empathy for all the people on there, it got more amplified. Like I knew I turning that leaf was good for me because uh many years later, I get onto the Facebook Wheel alums group, which we're all part of, and seeing the stories from everybody and seeing their walks of life and seeing how happy they are, even though they didn't win the big prize, or they, it's like, oh, yeah, I totally got skunked, but I had the greatest time. And you realize, like, wow, they're so happy, and like people, cheer them, and because they took it in stride, they were great
Oh.
sports. It's like if I had to have, something that traumatic, at least to my eyes, could I put on a brave face? I don't know, but the fact that they did, and they still celebrate the game, and they're a fan and all that, like that is far more admirable than like, yeah, I went on there and I just like beat people. Like there's it's like a good analogy that I like to draw is people who do marathons, which I've done. Like I
Mhm.
did a marathon once, I will not do it again. Half marathon, 10Ks, sure, but they talk about, the people who win the marathon, like they're the guys who could do it in like under 4 hours or whatever. But there are people who do marathons and like, they walk it, like, they speed walk it. And to do that, like a full marathon would take you about 8.5 or 9 hours. Now you think doing something straight for 8.5, 9 hours, let alone something physical and like taxing like that,
Mhm.
that is like impressive, as opposed to the guy who just, okay, I'm going to put into overdrive for 3 hours and then it's a wrap. So yeah, the people who grind, people, it's like you realize they overcome so much more to, beyond the game. Like I appreciate the story behind what everyone gets through. That's why I love this podcast. I appreciate the stories that people, got, because not every story is the same. And it's like, oh wow, I never even thought about that. It makes you
Yeah.
introspect, like, you reflect. It's like, oh wow, I totally see that. I totally get that. I'm like, why didn't I think of it like
Mhm.
that way? And I think out of game shows, I mean, I can't say I can't really compare because I've never been on other game shows other than Switch later, much later in life. But yeah, it seems like, I mean, this is just me projecting. Like, if I were to be on a Jeopardy theme for, I would think it was a bunch of brainiacs who would try to one up each other and be like, oh, I would know that and all that. Like, nah, Wheel's about fun. And if
Mhm.
that's kind of what it boils down to. Wheel's about fun. It's about people who enjoy that sort of thing. I mean, and the fact that they're just, their personality is just so inviting, they're welcoming, they're so different. It's like, okay, I feel like I belong, as opposed to like, oh gosh, I hope I fit in. Like, nah, we'll take you in however you are. It's like the fact that you're different just adds to this entire mosaic. And
Yeah.
it's so cool to see, having gone to some of the alum meetups, whether it's the Vegas tournaments, the slot tournaments, or that outing that we had for Pat's 8,000th episode. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just people who I thought like I, never really met them before or anything. Just you're facing a name and we have a common thread and we talk online sometimes. It's like no, once you get them in person, it's a whole different ball game and
Yeah.
you just feel so much like better for meeting them.
And if you could give
it makes me so
advice,
mad I didn't see you, Kellen, at the last one. Stupid i15 big rig turning over with lithium ion batteries catching blaze.